because that's how we're gonna fix it. That's the only way we'll fix it is by having these conversations, listening to both sides, being respectful, because I can sit, and I think most of the brothers in the chat can sit there and at least listen to what a woman is saying. Like, you know what, this is our perspective. This is why we think y'all are jacked up. And listen and take it for what it's worth, and then go back and forth and say, you know what, let's come to a meeting. Let's understand what's taking place. Because you got to understand, at the end of the day, it's all systematic.
Right.
I mean, it's all the seed. It's all about destroying and conquering. You know what I'm saying? So once we first understand that, I think that's the first step of us getting back to where we need to go. We can sit here and bash each other online all we want. We can talk about women ain't this, man or dogs. But at the end of the day, if we keep continuing down the path we're going, it's like it's going to, at some point, whether it's 1,000 years, whether it's 10,000, it's going to lead to extinction.
Is it not written in your law that ye are gods? You understand what I'm saying? So it just depends on what level you own based on, whether you're human or whether you're immortal.
Masculinity, femininity. We've talked about, purpose. We've talked about, women with children. What's your take? What are some of the plays you think are hindering people from getting to relationships nowadays?
Again, thank you so much for having me, Soul. I've been watching a lot of your videos for the last, I would say, 2 years. Am I able to be heard okay?
Oh, yeah, you're good.
Okay.
Yes.
So I would say, I wouldn't say that there's like a bigger issue than others, but I am 32. I'm single. I don't have any children. And I would say in my mid-20s, I went into the toxic femininity of feminism. That was a huge part of my life at that point. And what really saved me from that was I had moved to Tanzania for a little bit of time, for about a year. And I just saw healthy depictions of community, of friendship, of relationships, of multi-generational households. It was really beautiful. So now I am coming back into the West. I'm currently here in Panama. I have some taking care of some family issues here, but I am hoping to go back to Houston soon. What I'm noticing is that so I say all that to say I've been out of the American or Black American culture experience for some time now. So what I'm finding a challenge for me is I don't really know how things work in dating so much anymore. I have a Hinge dating profile, and some men, they seem to be very angry at, I guess, their previous experiences with women. They're citing a lot of using, a lot of abusing, a lot of just women not being honest. And I have never really needed to ask anyone for anything because my parents are still alive. They're still together, 30 plus years of marriage. And my mother and my father are just very supportive. So I just never had to be in this space of getting flued out or, whatever women do. I'm finding that my issue is finding a man that wants a natural woman, someone that's not going to, I find sometimes maybe want somebody that's going to hurt them. I don't know.
Yeah. So I have two questions. One is what elements did you see in relationships in Tanzania, right? That we're lacking over here in the West? Good question.
Oh, wow. So many things. So because of the way that I look, and yes, my name is Arabic. Maybe I have some of that in the back of my lineage, but I was adopted into or grafted into, welcomed into a lot of spaces with Muslim women. Tanzania is one of the few countries where Christians and Muslims live together peacefully. They pride themselves on that. So I saw a lot of acceptance. I saw a lot of people who are just not taken aback by identity politics or identity culture. This is who you are. This is who I am. How can we socialize and become a better community? I saw that a lot of men and women, they know how to speak to their elders. They know how to honor and respect their elders, which is not something that I see like, on a widespread scale in Black America or just, in America in general. Let me see what else. I think that people were more willing to just live a peaceful life. Dar es Salaam was the capital. It means the house of peace. So it's a lot of people, they're not combative. If they have a problem, it's like, what's the solution? Let's get to it as quickly as possible. So I find that that's how their culture runs as a whole.
That makes sense. And I saw what sister put, sister had made a comment, and I hate that I took it down. But she made a comment about she's so glad you brought up the feminism.
Being toxic.
Yeah. But my thing is, so you mentioned your parents have been together for 30 plus years, and it just feels like it feels like it's a healthy relationship. Like what do you think, you witnessing that firsthand, what do you think led you toward a feminism type energy for a while?
Yeah, so I appreciate you asking that. So my father, he's retired military, and he was gone for a while, almost a decade, 2 tours in Afghanistan, 2 tours in Kuwait, and 1 in Iraq, I want to say. So during that time when my father left, I saw that my mother had to just do a lot of different things that she didn't necessarily have to do before. And the dynamic for them changed. And so that kind of changed how I was conditioned into believing that, a traditional marriage could work. My father he's not a perfect man. He came back with some issues, mental issues. And, just when you're living a life that you don't know if you're going to live the next day, and that's a very present reality, maybe you make mistakes in your marriage. So that's something that my parents had to deal with, and I saw them dealing with that. So after a while, I was just like, and then just my own experiences in, my early to mid 20s, like, just thinking like, maybe all men are trash. Maybe there is no good men anymore. And that was the negative feedback loop that was playing in my head. But it was it's completely wrong.
Yeah.
Which I know.
What did you do to heal? Like, did Tanzania alone heal that, or what steps did you take? Because I think that's crucial. Because I think a lot of us right now, men and women, it's all about healing past our trauma. And everybody has a certain level of it. Some of it may not be as toxic, but anything that alters a person, in my opinion, from their natural state of, that balance, so what did you do outside of Tanzania, do you think, to help you get back in this in this right energy?
So in 2018, I decided to be celibate. I was celibate for about 2 years, and it was a time period that I just wanted to really understand what was going on. I had made some choices that I was not proud of, and I feel like, okay, so why did I make that choice? I had dealt with an assault a few years prior to that, and I recognized like, oh, that's really what. And in my mid-20s, that was really what was the catalyst for me to just, okay, forget it all. I'm done with everything. So I didn't like who I had become. I didn't like, even just physically, I was not taking care of myself. I was not eating well. I was depressed for all, intents and purposes. I was depressed. So in 2018, I said, okay, so I can continue down this road and be miserable, like I see many women and men, in their late 30s, early 40s, whatever. Or I can just be very quiet, sit still, and see what happens. And from that time, I was able to even muster up the courage to say, okay, I'm going to go move to Tanzania for a little bit.
Ms. Shahida, what coming out of that energy, the feminist energy and the toxic, when did you recognize that it was toxic?
When I was in a same-sex relationship. That was the part for me that was like, that was the extreme of the toxic feminism that I was exhibiting at the time. I was just like, okay, I've dealt with this assault. you know, maybe all men just want to take from me, and maybe a woman would be better, which is completely not true either, because people are users. It's not just men, it is people. And you have to find the people that are not going to use you and abuse you. So for me, I grew up in the South. I grew up in Texas in a Christian home. And I was just noticing, you know, I had a lot of static with my mother, particularly. She was like, this is not how I raised you. My mother's a teacher, you know, just a very biblical, God-fearing, amazing mother. She gave me, you know, so many gems, and I'm now putting together some of those pieces, and throughout my celibacy time also. So that was really the huge, yeah, I would say that's the epitome of it. And I was like, this is not how I want to live my life.
Thank you for your honesty.
Interesting. Yeah, that's that whole story is interesting. You can see your evolution, you know, from the beginning, going left and coming back and finding your truth. That's a beautiful thing. You know, I like what you said, brother. Like when brothers say, you know, quote unquote, all women are a certain way, or women say all men are dogs. It's like people at some point, everyone is going to understand that you're going to attract the same person where you vibrate. So for a person to say, you know what, all people are X, Y, Z, it's like, now, brother, it's like you're there.
Right.
It's like, don't try to put that on me. You know what I'm saying? A lot of them sisters are saying, hey, all brothers are this. Like, now, sister, you flying too low. You know. So yeah, I'm glad you came on, sister. Like you're definitely. Like Brother Kier said, you know, you're a breath of fresh air. A lot of men need to see women that say, you know what, I was, you know, like I was raised a certain way. I was right. I kind of went left, and I kind of went through some things. I experienced some traumas in my life. I went through some bad times, and I calibrated myself, and now I'm back on the right path. A lot of men need to hear that. A lot of women need to hear that.
And that was going to be my next point. Is like, as open as she is, you know, we as men always have our stories, you know, when I was this or when I was that, you know, like Book, you know, when I was going through this, you know, can we take those same stories from the women?
True. Yeah, I think a lot of us don't allow women to have those times.
Right.
It's like we know as men, like we say, we go through our, you know, sowing wild lows. We go through our times where we, you know, maybe went through some bad times for employment, but it's like a lot of men don't allow women to have some bad times in life, man. That's
I got a two-part question, sister. So I know you said you were at one point in a same-sex relationship. Now, were you in that community? Because you could be in a relationship but not really in that community, living in that community, right? So were you involved in that community?
I would say to one level, yes. I was living in Miami at the time, and you know, Miami's just it's a place for too many things to happen. So I was getting my graduate degree at the University of Miami, which I feel like that kind of kept me apart from that for some time, because I was focused on going to school. That's the purpose why I moved there. And had it been different reasons, my life could have probably been something completely different now. So I thank God for that grace as well. But to one level I was, because I am a writer. I write children's books. So I was involved in the artist community there. And, you know, as we know, a lot of artists are gay. So it was, I had kind of one foot in, one foot out. It was my one and only same-sex relationship. I will never make that choice again. And I recognize now, I recognize the attack that is placed on us as Black women and men to just not be together. So, you know, it's something that I regret, but at the same time, I don't, because, you know, I was able to get out of it. And like you all mentioned earlier, you know, there's women now that I speak to younger than me, about, you know, some that are my age, you know, that are just dealing with giving up, losing hope. And, you know, I'm like, no, why would you, like, I mean, I'm not, you know, young, I'm not in my 20s anymore, but I'm still young. Like, we can still turn it around is really, you know, what I like to tell people when we're speaking about these sorts of things, because we can keep spinning our wheels on this, you know, hamster wheel of mental delusion in the United States, or we can get off of it and, you know, make another choice. So,
yeah. So the second part of that question, to ask the second question, because I wanted to know how in depth and educated you were. Next question: do you think most of our sisters are in same-sex relationships because they have anger or distrust towards men, black men? Or, and you know, you hate to generalize things, but we're going to take the majority.
I would say so. I would say, just speaking for the women, there's a lot of, and you know, I guess I'll take the darts if I have to, but there's a lot of women that have been abused either sexually or physically by men in their lives previously, and they're angry that they were not able to do anything about it. They're angry that nobody was there for them. Insert, you know, emotion here. But yes, I do feel like a lot of women are in same-sex relationships because they're angry.
Yeah, that was always my theory. And like, I'm a heterosexual man, so me that doesn't really hold weight. You know, it may come off as an attack. So that's why I wanted to get your perspective on that.
What is it that a woman should give, or how should a woman support her man, or anything related to that topic?
Yes, I appreciate you asking me that. I would say first and foremost, peace. Again, that was a huge part of what I saw in Tanzania, just a culture based upon peace, and knowing, I mean, again, whatever darts come to me, but knowing your role. Everybody has a role to play. Children, women, men, elderly, we all have a role to play, or play, whatever, to be in. And so for me, I think that role looks like homeschooling my children. I was a public educator this would have been my 10th year teaching. And like I mentioned, my mother is a teacher, and knowing what I know about public school or just any school outside of the home, I want to be able to control what is, you know, being taught to our children, especially at such a time as this, considering in Texas, you know, the critical race theory and, you know, all of these debates and stuff happening. I want our children to know their history, their present, and their future. So I would say that, you know, one of the biggest hard skills that a woman can bring into a relationship, into a marriage, is knowing how to teach children, because just like I said, where we're going in society, it's not conducive to put your children in public school, in my opinion. And just making life easier for the people that are in your household. My mother was and is a great example for that. If a man doesn't want to be married, that's not something that I see for me. For some women, that's okay. Some men have children with other women. That, you know, to me is not a problem, because then I'm also a helpful and supporting force within that child's life. So yeah,
this is my thing. I always say that, you know, that if you want to attract a high vibrating person, whether it's man or woman, if you want to attract a high vibrating person, you first have to become high vibrational yourself. But even once we become high vibrational, there are still some barriers. How should high vibrational men move in order to attract a sister like yourself? What is it that men aren't doing, or where aren't they looking, or what rock aren't they overturning? What do you see? How do you think brothers are missing the mark as far as finding solid sisters?
So I have this type of conversation with some of my brothers and guy friends as well. So I would say, okay, for example, Instagram, social media. A man says he wants a natural woman, but then will like all of the pictures of the baddies and the what's of this world. It's a bit of cognitive dissonance for me. If you say you want natural, then why are you hyping up or giving credence to this type of woman if that's not what you want? If that's not what you want your daughter to be like, if that's not how you want your sister or your mother to be like, why? I understand. I mean, I in some way I can understand it, because men are more visual. But then it's like, okay, so you say you don't like it when women get BBLs, but then you like all of the pictures with women who have BBLs. So it becomes kind of confusing to me.